Hi, this is Hansa, and welcome to the next episode of the Digital Leaders Podcast. Welcome back. Today we have Terry with us again. Um, I know those who listened into the last episode would have enjoyed the conversation that Terry and I had around the requirement for the IT department to be renamed the Digital Solutions and Services Department and a respective change in their mandate. Which brings us to today's topic, where we are going to talk about what is the DSS department's mandate. We are kind of not going to go with the dictionary definition of mandate today, which essentially means a directive or an order or a command, but we are exploring mandate from the avenues of what it means for IT. We'll continue to call it IT for a little bit now. And in terms of what authority, what powers they have, what are their roles and responsibilities, and what kind of capabilities they need to have to be able to fulfill that mandate that is provided to them. Terry has been looking at this area closely for a long time now. And Terry, can you tell me if there is a clear mandate for IT within the organization, or do you think there has been any change in that area?
Hi, Hansa. Thank you very much. No, there is no clear mandate for IT department. Um, but there is an implicit mandate.
Hmm.
And dare I say it's keep the lights on. But that's not really where it comes from. I wrote a book called Reinventing the IT Department, where I went and asked 50 CEOs, and I said, cut the nonsense. What is it that you really want? Not what they're telling you, not what the industry is telling you, but what do you want from your IT department? And it was very interesting. Of the 50 odd CIOs that I talked to, they all had very much the same, call it mandate now, implicit for IT. And it was three things: it was deliver IT without fuss,
Hmm.
it was improve business results, and it was provide appropriate leadership. Those three things: deliver IT without fuss, improve business results, and provide appropriate leadership. Sounds good. Sounds okay. Everybody agreed on that except IT. And the reason IT didn't agree is because there were some invisible words for them. So, deliver IT without fuss, they said, yeah, we deliver IT. And improve business results, they say, yeah, we deliver projects. And provide appropriate leadership, they say, yeah, we're keeping an eye on the tech and developments in tech, and we tell the company where the tech is going. So that was interesting because they see deliver IT, they see business, and they see leadership. When you talk to the CEOs, I went back to the CEOs and I said, so what are the important words in this deliver IT without fuss, improve business, and provide appropriate leadership? And they turned around and they said, without fuss is
Oh,
a
really? Okay, so essentially, they want the IT department to work silently in the background and let them continue doing their business. And in a way, that relegates the IT department to a support function, which is what we talked about in the previous episode. That IT needs to come out of being a support function and a cost center to being at the heart of the organization. And if the CEO is still talking in the same terms, although they're trying to paint it like it's a very different. What does that mean for IT? How does it impact them?
so let's go back to this implied.
Hmm.
Without to the executive is I don't want to hear the whinging and complaining. Don't be in the background, but don't tell us how difficult your job is. Everybody has a difficult job. Don't tell us not how much it costs, but how much effort you're putting into this thing. Just make it happen. So make it happen, I suppose, is one of the ways that they're saying um, they expect the IT department. They're not saying be back office, but they're saying don't come to us with something like, oh, there is a new security protocol and we need to deliver on that. Just make it happen. So that's their without fuss view of the world. And remember, they also say, uh, so when I talk to them about improved business results, they came back to me and they said, talk about outcomes. It's not about delivering projects. Well done, IT delivers projects. But what is the business outcome? What is the focus on where the business has changed because of IT's efforts? So they're moving away from output from IT to outcomes. So, what is the outcome? And in fact, that then went into a discussion around what is the outcome of a service level agreement. You might have a green dashboard, but very unhappy business. And the reason is because the business outcome is different. You might have a branch down, but it might be a critical branch. But according to the SLA, oh, you were only down 0.1% of the time. So that's not the issue for business. The business is the business impact and the business outcomes. And then they talk about appropriate leadership, not uh, leadership. So IT would come in and say, hey, there's this cool new technology, call it IoT or AI and all the rest. That's not appropriate for the business. And I'm put in mind of a discussion I had with a uh, CIO of an airline, and he had just joined the airline, or I spoke to him afterwards, but he had joined the airline and he went to his first exco. And the CEO welcomed him and said, right, on the topic, on the discussion is, do we lease 5 new aircraft or do we buy them? And he went round the table and everybody had their input. And he came to the CIO and he said, so call him John. John, what do you think? And John said, but I'm an IT guy. And he said, all right, we'll leave that for now. And he moved on. And after the meeting, the CEO went to the John, the IT guy, and said, that's not why you're on Exco. You're on Exco because you bring a unique perspective to the discussion. And yes, it might be a technological, digital, it might be how the systems work together, but that perspective nobody else has. I want to hear that perspective in every business discussion. So that's what I now interpret as appropriate leadership, bringing your
Ah,
unique perspective to the table, which a lot of CIOs aren't doing.
so essentially, the CIO or the IT department is short selling itself. They are underestimating the power. They're underestimating their ability to look at business decisions from a technology perspective and how it might how the choices they make, whether it is entering a new market or launching a new product, what impact it has on the technology and the infrastructure that is run in the background, and how well or how unable they are to support it. So is your message that CIOs need to stop looking at themselves as being the IT guy, like John did, and then
Yes.
become more active in terms of being more proactive and participating in the on the executive board, on in the CXO meeting table?
Yeah, so let me go back a bit. You kept talking about bringing a technological perspective, and I agree, you have to bring that.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to bring what I call a digital perspective, which is different from a technological perspective. The digital
How so?
perspective understands that everything is global, everything is networked, everything is instant. Uh, Pick a digital topic, but that's what it's about. So, yeah, you got technology, but digital is about information, data flows. It's about customer behavior, user behavior. It's about experience, digital experience, if you will, of the organization. And it's about, guess what, digital products and services that the organization provides. So you've got to bring your technical perspective, but also, and I firmly believe this, probably more importantly, bring your digital perspective and understanding how the world is instant and global and customers have changed. That's always got nothing to do with technology, but it's got something to do with the mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
that is your unique perspective that you can bring to the organization.
So essentially, it looks like there is a lot of close association that the CIO's office needs to have with the CMO's office when you talk about customer behavior, understanding how markets are changing, the impact that digital products and services have on user experience, and so on. So we have already seen movement towards that side where the CIO is talking more to the CMO these days in terms of trying to understand how to align closely with that. So, do you see that maybe down the line the CIO and the CMO becomes one organization that's the digital organization focused on the customer, bringing an outside in perspective to the business and providing the data and insights that will allow the business to choose the right the products, services that they need to be focusing on?
Yeah, I saw a report, I think it was 2 years ago even, that marketing are doing more IT than IT are doing. But I think that is more, call it externally focused IT. So that is to do with digital marketing and media and websites and the like. Now, I'm going to bring up a buzzword, cross-functional. And I think that is where let's stop leaving ourselves in silos and saying, well, we're the IT people and the marketing people are over there and ne'er the twain shall meet. Yeah, I think your CIO and your CMO should probably be meeting once a week and discussing how do we take this company forward. So I think those are the kind of issues and talk about cross-functional. I mean, it happens in agile, it's happening in scaled agile. Let's talk about how do we cross-function with HR? How do we cross-function with finance? So that's the kind of thinking that your CIO needs to be going through in terms of what his new mandate is.
And for the listeners, this is something that we touched upon in the previous episode, and this is also something that Terry has written about in his report, The New IT Department, which is available on Omdia. Uh, so Terry, tell me, how should IT define the mandate for themselves?
Um, well, firstly, IT mandates have changed over time. Um, there's the traditional mandate, which is based on a kind of a plan, build, run,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's a call it a traditional mindset, and it's often based on executives or CEOs' experience or previous experience of IT. Um, and I'm not hearing it as often now, but I used to hear CEOs say, I don't know much about IT, but I know it costs too much. Uh, that's the standard response for a traditional mindset. The traditional mindset is kind of plan, build, run, keep the lights on, and stay out of our way, which is without fuss, what you were talking about earlier. But the new IT department, now let's move the word to DSS, digital solutions and services. Um, you've talked about the new IT department as an Omdia report, but also have a look at our report on the new IT operating model, because I think that's important, because that talks about the three focal areas of IT, and one is digital product services and customer experience. That's a focus area, and that's looking outwards. It's an external focus. Notice plan, build, run isn't in there yet. It's also looking at organization culture and capabilities, which is an internal focus, but it's not internal focus on um, business processes. It's on how capable is this organization in delivering what we're trying to deliver. And yes, there is uh, a place for the technology, which I call enabling platforms. I once had a CIO or talked to a CIO who was responsible for enabling platforms, call it enabling as a adjective. Um, the platform he was responsible for was the digital platform, but also all the branches and head office. And the thinking of the CEO was these are the platforms from which our organization delivers its services. Therefore, I want to put the platform under one person, and he put it under the CIO. So you can go as broad as you want in enabling platforms, ignore the technology for a moment, but you can go as broad as you want. I think another thing that IT DSS brings to the party is innovation. Um, Firstly, I believe digital solutions and services are probably more innovative than anybody in the organization. But inside just about every enterprise architecture tool that you have now is something called idea to implementation. And they architect the idea all the way through to its implementation. They look at the impact of the idea, they look at the business interfaces of an idea. So I think DSS is responsible also for, not responsible, has a mandate to innovate a lot more than they're doing and also take responsibility for the innovation approach.
Um, Terry, in our
Yeah.
previous episode, we spoke about a term called looping, and you mentioned that the faster an organization is able to loop, the more innovative it becomes, the more competitive it becomes. So what role would you see the DSS department? I'm calling it DSS now because we are
Yes.
veering down into the territory where it's no longer IT, but it's the heart of the business. So what role would DSS be playing here, and what do they need to do to be able to enable their business to loop faster, to innovate faster?
So they have an enormous amount of experience in looping faster, just through agile, through lean startup thinking, through MVP, minimal viable products. Their
Right.
job, I believe, is to put in place the looping mechanism and make sure that it works faster. So we come back to innovation to implementation, but we also talk about what is the process that allows our organization, that shortens our time to market. What is the process that shortens our time to organizational change, that shortens our time to capability change or culture change? So DSS has, or CIOs have, an ability to think systemically, and I think it is a major uh, advantage over a lot of siloed departments in the organization. Because they can think systemically, how does the loop system work throughout the organization? So I think they're also responsible for the loop mechanism as much as improving the looping process or the loop time, if you will.
So should we essentially say that the DSS department has to be or has to provide the foundation for agile business processes, not just agile in we all know agile in terms of software development, but agile in terms of how fast the business is able to close that gap, close that loop. So how does that translate? What does it mean for the business if they're able to have a faster, adaptable, more iterative approach to business processes in general?
So yeah, you get your products out faster and you change your
Yeah.
organization faster, but some of the stuff's going to go wrong. Um, and modern organizations are not calling failures failure anymore. They're calling them learning opportunities. So if you loop and it doesn't work, you should be learning a lot. So if you're looping very quickly, you, yeah, probably are disrupting the market. You probably are getting the march on your competition, but more importantly, you're learning faster. And if it comes to the bottom line, looping is about learning. There's some successful learning and there's some unsuccessful, which creates other learning. So it's about learning. But, and I need to put this in there. There's a gentleman called Alberto Savoia who wrote a book called The Right It. And his whole book, I've read it, it's an excellent book. And he really talks about do try and make sure you're doing the right thing. Um, he said you can be as competent as you want, you can do the marketing to death, but it might just be the wrong thing. So if you're going to loop, if you're going to iterate, if you're going to innovate, try and work on what the right what it is that customers will buy. Because ultimately, and I once had a general manager say to me back when I was a CIO, remember, I'm your customer. And I said, you're never my customer. You never could be. You're at best a partner and an associate. But as a customer, you don't pay the organization any money for my services. Yeah, they're internal transfers, but you're not increasing our revenue as an organization because you're my inverted commas customer. And also importantly, you can't fire me and I can't fire you. Whereas a customer can just move on, and ditto, one can tell a customer, look, we're no longer prepared to do business with you. So I'm just coming back to the concept of uh, doing the right thing. You've got to understand what your customers want. So even IT departments, let's call them DSS, they have to have a tag. And this is why a partnership between them and the CMO is essential. What is it the customers are asking for? Let's make let's deliver that faster. Let's iterate faster only around what the customers are asking for.
Right. So this kind of brings us back to the point you made earlier about cross functionality within the organization. So essentially, the ability of a business to loop faster, to innovate faster, iterate faster, depends heavily on how close knit the different functions within the business are and how tightly they align with each other and follow talk the same language, they speak the same terms, they have the same outcomes that they are chasing, they have the same KPIs that they're responsible for. But that is something that I would say probably a very handful of companies have been able to achieve. So, how should an organization start thinking? Where should they start if they want to do this faster looping, if they want to go from an IT department to a DSS department and to become a truly digital business? Because when you talk about digital, it permeates from end to end. It's not just IT that is digital. It's not just the platforms that are digital. It's the whole business, the process itself that has to be agile, nimble, adaptable. So where should somebody start for something like this?
So let's start with the CIO and his or her mandate. The first issue for them is to probably re-examine what is our purpose given
Hmm.
the new world. Okay, because your purpose when you got the job is probably very different from your purpose now. So
Right.
given the new job, given the digital world, given the centrality of technology and digital in an organization, given all of that, what is our purpose in the organization? And for that, look at the organization's purpose. If the organization doesn't have a clear purpose, you're in trouble. But that happened to me. I was a CIO and we developed a strategy, and the organization didn't have a strategy. So I went round and I talked to every general manager and said, what do you want in 3 years' time? And they all put it down. And I wrote that all down and then typed it up. And guess what? We had an organization strategy. So,
Oh,
um,
okay. Okay.
and then they said, gosh, we never even thought of that. This was a long time ago. So, what is the purpose of the organization? And understand if you're government or if you're an NGO, your purpose is going to be mostly around service. It's going
Hmm.
to be mostly around upliftment. It's not going to be about revenue and profits. If you're a commercial organization, guess what's going to be around revenue and profits? But there are other purposes that one needs to think about. So, how does DSS fit within the organizational purpose? So, for instance, let's call it, I don't know, a Department of Finance in a government. So their purpose is about the annual budget, and it's about making sure that every department spends their money correctly, and it's auditing that, etc., etc. So, how does the CIO fit within that purpose? So it's not about delivering new technology. It's about how do we make sure that our organization can deliver on its purpose. So that's number one. Then, given what we've said, how we fit, let's go back to the finance um, department in a government. So they need to be able to audit other government departments? What technology can help? How can digital help in that audit? So those are the kind of thinking that you need to be taking through. So then you start to develop, if you will, the kind of capabilities, skills, and knowledge that you need, technology you need, and from that you can start to talk about our mandate is to, guess what, loop faster or gather more information for this government department. So that's the kind of thinking, and I've deliberately taken it away from the commercial because we all know what the commercial kind of purpose is. And
Right.
I've deliberately taken because it's about citizen welfare, or in the finance department's case, it's about making sure that every government department is financed correctly and then spends those finances correctly. So that's the kind of thinking that your CIO needs to do. And then he needs to say, in order to deliver on what I want to do for this purpose, what authority do I need? What role do I need to place? What boundaries and what cross boundaries do I need to put in place? In other words, I'm not going to be able to do this unless I can cross boundaries with, I don't know, our audit department. So that we need to be thinking around that sort of things. And then you need to focus on expectations. So you say, if this is our mandate, what can we expect from other people, and what can other departments expect from us? And then you're pretty much close to uh, delivering a mandate without even having to take it to a higher power. You're close to delivering a mandate that you have crafted for yourself, um, to the organization. If, however, your mandate is at cross purposes with other executives and other thinking, that's another story. You then need to do a fair bit of socializing of the concept, and saying to those other executives, this is what I'm here for. What are you here for? And that's the kind of discussion that you need to have. But remember,
Very interesting points you make here,
yeah,
Terry. So, when you're coming about, when you're talking about, the IT defining the mandate for itself and then bringing in the business, so there's this whole concept of being able to socialize or to communicate that mandate in a clear and articulate fashion with the rest of the business and ensure that they all align to the same, goals or the same objectives. So there these are challenging things, it's not easy. In a commercial organization it's easier, yes, because like I said, it's all about revenues and profits and controlling customer churn or increasing the customer base. But when it comes to more regulated industries or the public sector, how do you define, because each department has a different mandate, so how do you commercial or socialize, how do you communicate that IT is able to support the mandates of all different departments? For example, agricultural department might have a different mandate than human resources or education department within a government. So how does IT go about socializing or communicating that they can support all these different mandates?
yeah. So I'm a great fan of a communication model I saw a number of years back, and it's 4 steps. It is make people aware, then inform them, then engage them, then operationalize what you've been talking about. So you need to go back to the first step of making people aware. What is a mandate? Why is a mandate necessary? This is just for us. I'm not trying to get into your territory, but this is what we're thinking. And you'll often find, if you go and say, this is the kind of thing we're thinking, we're trying to link what we're doing with the organizational purpose, you'll often find other people follow suit. But I'm also very fond of the concept of an IT friendly head of department, not your head, but of another head. I mean, you have coffee with the person, and she sort of says, "Look, is there something you can do for me, etc." That's an IT friendly executive. Then start talking about mandates to that person, and then do an MVP. Say to that person, let's both build a mandate for our individual departments, and then it grows. I'm not in favor of this big bang, we are going to do this and everybody else must fall in line. I'm not in favor of that. I prefer the subterfuge approach, which is about finding an IT friendly executive and then working through them. And you find that it grows after that, but it has to be successful. And that's the issue. You have to deliver.
This is Hansa and Terry. We've been talking about IT's mandate within the organization and how that needs to change. The reports, the new IT department, and the IT operating model are available on omdia.com. If you would like to know more about how to access those reports, or if you would like to talk to Terry and me, you can reach us through askananalyst@omdia.com. That's askananalyst@omdia.com. You've been listening to the Digital Leaders Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy.